Welcome to the Disc Golf Show, episode number 22 on the 22nd of October. At least this time, now that I've double-checked, it is that date, unlike the last show. Anyways, this show brought to you in part by Fountain Nine Sports with their two locations, one in Orangevale and one in Rockland. I messed that one up last time, too. I caught it. You caught it. I caught it. I know. I got it. Mistakes are made. Okay? This is live for the most part, even though you're seeing it recorded. My name is Justin. With me today is... I'm going to mess this. I messed it up last time, too. A guy that's sitting somewhere over here.
Yeah, one of those sides.
One of those. I'm not sure which. But maybe one of these days I'll get it.
Figure that one out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a new platform, but hey, it's giving us new capabilities, so more to come on that. Stay tuned to the social medias because maybe we'll make some announcements. I tried to do a test without Nick knowing, and it didn't work, but we'll move past that and go on. Nick, what have we got today?
Get this one. We mentioned this last show, and I just wanted to throw it in here again just so people know. If you didn't hear last show, there is an event being held in Girardota, Colombia. It is Abierto Las Americas 2024 that is held in December 12th to 14th. If you have any interest in becoming a sponsor or registering for it, some of those links should be in our description or comments below this video. We'll have links for the website of the event, the registration link, as well as a YouTube video, so you can see the course. It was the
beautiful course,
Project 1.3 for the Paul McBeth Foundation. So the first year, and I think it was the third course, 1.3.
Yeah.
Sponsors, costs for sponsoring a hole is $120 US. So if you want, you can contact Ken Laukinen through the Discord.
That's 500,000 pesos.
500,000 pesos.
That's scary at first when you see the dollar sign and 500,000. Yeah, right? You're like, how much is it? Oh, it's $120. Okay.
Pesos. Yeah. So again, Ken Laukinen, Loukinen, through Discord Golf Scene. So contact him if you are interested in either registering or helping sponsor. So shout out to them because this is a big event for them down there at this new course. And they're trying to bump it up. Currently, I believe it's still a C tier, but they're trying to bump that up and become a B tier after jumping through some hoops to do so. So shout out to the Abierto Las Americas 2024 in Colombia. Okay, so this year, there's a lot of changing that is going to be happening, I believe. And that's because there are somewhere around... 80 plus contracts that are ending this year. So
we can have a whole show on conspiracy theories about where players are going to go, right?
Yeah.
Put your tinfoil hats.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
tuck in. We'll be here for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, not quite. So most of these obviously are not your top pros. However, there are definitely some big pro names at the top that'll be moving. One of them we discussed last show was Brodie. So his contract with Discraft is coming up. So will he be staying with Discraft? Will it be a smaller contract? Will he be moving to another company?
Not a top pro.
No.
Dig.
Right. Yeah, dig. Right. Yeah.
Waiting for the emails.
Get your digs in. Get your digs in there. Yeah. So Brodie is his contract is coming up, so we'll see what happens with that. He did announce that he will be taking not a step back, but less proactive training, and because he has other ventures that he's part of. Another one, Casey White for Discmania. I don't personally see him moving. I think he'll re-up there. He's been there for a short, not a short time. Basically, his pro career has been there. After, linking up with Simon and all that. So, will he move? I think Discmania is probably a good fit for him, but who knows, right? Who knows?
We'll see.
Another one, Matty O at Westside. So, now that Westside and a few other manufacturers are part of House of Discs, is that something House of Discs has been doing like a, house cleaning there, kind of, unfortunately. But with the dip from COVID era disc golf kind of plateauing / dipping a little bit. Will Matty? Oh, maybe Matty will move manufacturers within House of Discs. Maybe he stays at West Side. I don't know. Like he's
some
definitely
flexibility there. So
yeah, and now that he has
one.
that Pro Tour event under his belt from last year's Maple Hill MVP Open.
Yeah,
that
gives him a couple more bargaining chips. So
yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
we'll see,
So we'll see what happens with Matt. Wherever he goes, they're going to benefit because Mattio's character just brings enough business, I think,
Absolutely.
to them. Everybody loves Mattio. Kona at Dynamic Discs. Now, whatever happens with Kona, she had her run early on prior to DD, right? Prior to her moving to D. This is when they had those, and I don't remember if you saw this or not. When they signed Kona, as well as another person we're going to talk to, they had this big commercial that they did where they landed them in a helicopter at the DD facility.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a big thing. It was a big deal, right? And because she had a good season prior to that. She's kind of been out of the loop. She's had some health problems, some surgeries and stuff like that where, it's affected her. Whether it's physically or mentally, it's affected her. And we hope she comes back from that stronger. She's still not necessarily in the top mix, but she's competing. So what's going to happen with her? Will she stay in House of Discs? Will she move to another manufacturer outside of that? We'll see. Because like I said, House of Discs is kind of doing some cleanup in-house, and so in-house.
See what you did there.
But I honestly, whatever that contract is, it's probably not going to be at the level as what it was, because she hasn't had those strides in the past few years. The other person, Ricky. So Ricky's coming up again.
Mr. Wysocki Raptor Legs himself.
He has not been shy. He has been at the top. Almost every event, you see him pushing, and he has the ability and the prowess to do so. But he's definitely got bargaining chips. So Ricky has not dropped off the limelight. So
No.
That's definitely a big one that we'll be paying attention. Now, does he re-up and just have a better contract? I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, the way that his game has gone all year, he's got some leeway, I believe. He's got some extra bargaining chips in his pocket too. But as for a beneficial move, I don't know. I mean, obviously we don't know what the behind-the-scenes details are going to be on these contracts and the moves there, but just with the different things that he's done this year with DD, right? The different lines of discs and all that, I don't really see him moving, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
So that'll be an interesting one. I'm curious as to what's going to happen with Ricky. Whether he stays or goes, what his contract will be. That'll be interesting. Now, the final one is for two people at Prodigy. So the Robinson brothers.
The bros.
So obviously, Isaac, he's got the biggest bargaining chips, right? He has a couple majors this year, and he could go he could probably go anywhere he wants.
I don't think that the contracts were offered as a package deal or a bundle with the brothers. I think they're individual, right? So
will they be split up this year?
Well,
that's going to be interesting.
That's kind of more the question. If one goes, does the other stay? Do the contracts influence one another, like personally? Like, hey, if you leave and go here, I will go too. Or does that even play a factor? Possibly not, but maybe. I don't know. Well, they're at the same place right now, so...
And Ezra had kind of a slow start to the season, but he finished extremely strong.
Right.
So he's... Dude, we'll get there. His putting's crazy, dude. His putting is crazy.
Absolutely.
But it is going to be interesting because in this final event, we can say this now because we'll get there, but Ezra beat Isaac at the championship. So
this happened.
He does have the talent. So that's going to be. I think that'll probably be the biggest story contract wise. Is Isaac
probably?
Isaac's probably going to be the biggest. Yeah. So I mean, outside of that, we can jump into the events. But before we do so,
make sure you click that subscribe button. And hey, it really helps us out. And just remember that you can always click the unsubscribe button later if it's not your jam. But it really helps us out if you click the subscribe. So please do so.
Please do. All right. Jumping into the events, the final couple events this season, because now the season is officially over for the pros.
Coming to an end.
Don't yell at me. There's no season in disc golf. Or yell at me. Send it to my email, nick@discgolfshow.com.
Yes.
But the tour and pro season is over, and we'll have outside season content to go over. But the events that recently passed were big events. We had the Throw Pink, so TPWDGC, during the USDGC.
Yes.
At the Throw Pink, these were both held October 10th to 13th. And at Throw Pink, we had a battle. And I said this a while ago. If Evelina can clean up her putting, she's going to be a force because her driving is ridiculous. And if she can and this year, she's done so. After that talk at the end of last year, the beginning of this year with McBeth, her putting has been exponentially better. And she's been at the top at all these events at one point or another. Maybe if she didn't win, she was vying for the win. But it came down to a battle ultimately between Tatar and Evelina. And Tatar came out on top, so she got that Throw Pink win. Now, again, the kind of discussion with Throw Pink is, should it be a major for FPO? There's a USWDGC that's held, so the argument there is not the same, because the USDGC is held at the same location at Rock Hill every year. The USWDGC travels, and it's held earlier on in the year, and so during the USDGC for MPO Mixed Pro Open, the TPWDGC is held. They already have, I believe there's 4 majors for FPO. So I don't see the need. The argument is a solid argument, though. They're playing the same course. Granted, different tee pads on some of the holes, but they're playing the same course that MPO is playing for USDGC. So let us know what you think. Do you think the Throw Pink event that's being held at the same course on the same weekend as USDGC, do you think that event should be bumped to a major for FPO division? I'm curious as to what you think and why.
I'm thinking a little differently. So, Throw Pink, what's that for? What's that part of it for?
I believe it's women's breast cancer, because that's usually
breast cancer awareness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that some of that probably, the proceeds of some of that probably goes towards maybe cancer research, right?
I would hope so.
So having that event on the same weekend as another major event, I think is kind of harming that a little bit. In terms of awareness and bringing maybe more potential eyeballs on it and bringing more money in, right? Because Throw Pink, that's important. There's a reason that's going on. And I think separating it for that reason so that you can bring more focus to those individual events and maybe bring more eyeballs in from the other crowd could be something you might want to think about just for that aspect. In terms of the other stuff, it could go either way. I don't really necessarily care, right? I mean, they have their own events and we can do whatever we want there. But just for this particular event, for its particular reason, it might be smart to separate them a little bit, just weekend-wise, right?
So, then, what if, because I get why they have the Throw Pink there, everybody's there, right? USWDGC's been held. And I don't know how, I think it's like you want to have an event. So whoever's holding Throw Pink is able to have this at Rock Hill, right? At Winthrop. So would they be up to letting go of the venue, right? And let's say USWDGC is held the same weekend as USDGC.
Yeah,
see, the thing with USWDGC is that it's all divisions. And it's on multiple courses usually.
Sure.
So the argument there is you wouldn't be able to hold the volume of people for USWDGC because USWDGC is concentrating solely on the FPO divisions, right? Or the female divisions, right? So that would be tough to combine that with USDGC. Now, for your argument, does the Throw Pink event then move to a different weekend? And USDGC has that weekend, and that's all that it's concentrated on for that weekend is USDGC.
Yeah. It has to be in October, though, because October is the Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It would just be a different weekend.
Which would then be tough because then you have to squeeze in. And again, to your argument there, or your topic, you do want to highlight Throw Pink. So having it have its own weekend would be very promising and fortunate for them because then you're specifically concentrating on that topic and that issue.
Right.
That's a interesting option to go with. I wonder if they've thought. I'm sure they've thought about that. It's just convenient, I think, that if you're having MPO for the USDGC, well, that's kind of how the tour goes, right?
Sure.
You always have a FPO event or divisions being ran the same weekend as the MPOs. So, I don't know. There's an argument there. There's definitely an argument there, and I think that's something that maybe down the road, most likely down the road, when there becomes maybe a men's tour and a women's tour, and they can sustain their own tours, then that becomes more of an idea of, okay, well, we can do whatever we want at this point because we have our own tours.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of where you want it to go anyway, because you want them to be you want them to be able to sustain themselves. Then you know it's grown, right? It's grown substantially. Sure.
So, I mean, long term, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So as for USDGC came down to this one was crazy because it came down between AB and Buhr, right?
Yes.
These younger guys, I think AB's in his early 20s, 23, 24. Buhr is 19. Mm-hmm. And Buhr's had an amazing season, right?
Yes.
AB started off extremely strong this season. He kind of had his ups and downs throughout the remainder of the season, but he comes out hot at USDGC.
Yes.
And this battle goes back and forth, and Heimberg gets in the mix, which Heimberg's still striving for that major. He still hasn't had a major yet, major win. And Wysocki even gets in there. Like we said, Wysocki's always a topic at some point at these events. But it comes down to the end. The final holes comes down between Barela and Buhr. And Buhr basically kind of stamps it with about, I want to say, 3 holes left. He kind of puts a nail in the coffin. And you have Buhr adding another major this year. And a 2-time at this point USDGC champ. So big shout out to Buhr.
I think it's interesting the shift that we've seen since the beginning. If you remember at the beginning of this tour season, right?
Mm-hmm.
AB was up there. And he was taking them. And we're like, oh, this is the year. And then we see the shift, right? And it almost becomes like the Buhr season, the
ice
it starts to shift.
What they're calling
right?
It, right?
Right, exactly. So I think it's interesting, and all of these events towards the end or the latter half of this season have been really good. Especially these last couple events. They've been close, and it's been very interesting to watch. I love the dynamics of it and the drama of it. So it's been a good year or a good season to watch disc golf, I guess is what I'm saying. It's interesting. It's had some shifts. So it's fun to watch.
It keeps getting better.
I'm excited to be back into it. So
it gets better and better. It seems like every year there's something.
And that's I think the trend, and hopefully that trend stays, right? It will get better and better. So make sure you renew your subscriptions now. So
yeah, right. Which, I mean, if you renew some subscriptions, those have gone up.
Yeah.
If you don't know, check your Disc Golf Network subscription for next year. The Pro subscription is what, $199?
Something like that.
So it's going to be $200
I don't know if that
for the year.
includes your membership discount though. To
that might not.
PDGA.
Yeah, that might be the full. Yeah.
Right.
But it might not. I don't know.
But
either way.
I think when we were looking at it, it did include that.
Yeah. But either way, take a gander. So a couple things to note. Throughout this USDGC, when I was watching this, just round 3, I know we already told you who won. Round 3 felt like a final round to me.
Yeah, it did, right?
Like, the battle was intense, dude.
Right,
and it
back
was like,
and forth.
Yeah, it was crazy. So just that in and of itself was exciting for me. I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, who's going to win? And then I go, wait a second. There's a whole other round tomorrow. So if you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out. It was a great event. And one thing to note, or another thing to note, we had Gibson, who had to do qualifying. So he went through the qualifying process because he wasn't immediately into USDGC. Shout out to him because he qualifies and he ends up getting a top 10, which ends up giving him an auto into next year. Yep. So he went from not making it, needing to qualify, to finishing in top 10. So big shout out to Drew Gibson. He did make a video recently, if you haven't, go check out his channel, of how much it costs and how much he paid to qualify and play in the USDGC. So here's a couple quick numbers that he notated. So go check out his video. But it basically came out his total cost for flight, stay. He didn't include food or gas because he said those are things that I'm going to do at home anyway. So I got to eat and I got to drive. $3,053 to play in the qualifying event for the USDGC entry fee, which itself was $350, flight, stay, and a rental. He took 10th place. He won $1,750. So his total loss to do all this was just over $1,300. So just know that unless for these contracts that are made, actually, he pays for his own entry fees. And some of these contracts with these manufacturers, they will pay for entry fees. Obviously, these are those players that have higher, bigger contracts. But
sure.
It was very interesting for him to break that down in that video and actually see what these athletes pay on their end if it's not included in their contract. So again, shout out to Drew for making the top 10 and solidifying him into the next USDGC for next year.
I wish we still had that sponsor. It's because he didn't use the code. Yeah. Would have been a perfect segue into saving money on airfare and travel.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Some things that I had.
I told you, I'm going to get a soundbite for this, Nick. It's going to be something like, "Get off my lawn."
Yeah, things not a fan
mannerisms or something.
By Nick, yeah.
Because here it comes. Here it comes. Buckle in.
Hole 13,
get your emails
USDGC. Ready. Just because, listen, if you're going to put OB on a hole, I feel, personally, that you should be able to see this goes into another issue I have.
Okay.
On hole 13, you're throwing over hill immediately off the tee.
Yes.
You can't even see where you're throwing.
Sure.
right? And granted, some of these holes on other events, you're throwing knowing the line of the hole and the fairway, right? Yeah. But if you're going to include OB, I feel like the placement of the tee is just weird. And it's been there for years now. It's been there for several years now. The other thing is there's this little tiny tree that's literally just off the right side of the tee pad. And it's like this scraggly looking tree that is just, it looks weird. And for me, visibility or aesthetics is a big thing, especially for live streaming and viewing an event, right? It looks like that was missed, that little tree. Like I said, the other thing for me, throwing over this hill with OB coming into play, I'm just not a fan. Again, it's not a make or break deal for me on this. You know,
sure.
It's just, it looks weird when you're viewing it. You see them teeing off, and all you see is a hill. You can't even see the fairway.
I would counter that with this happens in golf, golf.
Yeah.
Is it that big of a deal? And you know, for the player aspect of it, that's why you play the round before if you can. You know your lie and
map out your exactly.
You map that out, and it's not a big deal for them, right? Usually by that point. I get the camera aspect of it all, but you're going to have some give and takes. And remember, Nick, this is Mother Nature. Scraggly trees exist, and they deserve love too, Nick.
I guess so.
Okay.
You know what? Here's my balance. I would say here's my balance. Here's what I'll do.
All right.
If you were to have a different viewpoint from the tee, like
higher up,
have a tower that's built behind there to where the camera can see the player teeing off as well as the disc going over the hill.
You know what? Give the cameraman stilts.
I don't care. I don't care what makes them taller. I just think that would be a better, because I just didn't like them throwing and then immediately the disc. Granted, they have the catch cam, right? So they have the camera down the fairway. But I do like to see from the tee the flight of the disc. But once they release it, it goes out of view immediately after they release it once it passes that hill.
You might be able to do a drone shot or something.
Yeah, they did some of those throughout this season, which is super awesome. On some of those holes, it was very beautiful to see the flight from a drone point of view. So maybe that hole, you take the tee shots from the drone.
Just don't overuse it, because you'll end up on old mannerisms again.
You will.
Just saying.
You will. Okay, so another one, hole 17. We all know hole 17 USDGC. It's the island hole. It's the make or break.
Yes.
Can ruin your round, ruin your event. One of the rounds, Buhr walked all the way down to do his little dry bag puff, to see the wind. And then he walked all the way. You know what? Listen, again, to your comment. You've had previous rounds. You shouldn't be able to walk halfway, 3/4 of the way down the fairway before teeing off. You should be looking at the surroundings, looking at the trees down in the area to see what the wind looks like it's doing. Do not walk the whole stinking... And again, I'm not hating on Buhr. I'm hating on this hole, him taking all that extra time to walk down and do that to check. Look at it from and hope you guess right. That's part of the game.
Absolutely. It is part of the game. And here's the deal. The wind changes all the time.
Yes.
So you're not going to be able to predict it from day to day to minute, to second, really. Yep. So it's going to be kind of luck of the draw on how you read it at the time of your throw.
Yes.
And that's part of the skill that goes with it. So I agree with you there. The other thing is, and we've talked about this before, disc golf needs to kind of do, in my opinion, what baseball did. And that's shorten up the gameplay, the game time. Because a lot of people are turned off by how long it takes to watch a round. Yeah. Some not. Yeah. But a lot of people. And if you're trying to get more eyeballs on this particular thing to grow it, you need to make that more efficient. And having a player walk all the way down, that's eating up time. That you can cut that out, because that's a little bit ridiculous.
It is.
Cut that out. You have so many. I think we should go down to, like, you have this much time for you to get on that T-pad throw, next person. This much time. Next, like, almost like stopwatch. We need
just
to
like
speed
the
it up.
30-second. You have a 30-second timer. I don't know if that's applicable for the... I would think that it's applicable for the T-pad, but I know it's applicable for your fairway shots and your putts and stuff like that once you address your lie. But that's not a lie. That's a tee-off. So I think that's where there's a little bit of an issue there that maybe that needs to be addressed.
Sure.
I just didn't like waiting there, watching him all the way. It looked like he went all the way down to the hay bales.
Right. No,
and I'm like,
that shouldn't be something that's accepted during a round. I'm sorry.
He's doing a lot better on his addressing time-wise. That was an issue a few years ago, a couple years back. But he's been doing a lot better. I just think that he's almost kind of falling back a little bit. He's pushing that 30-second mark quite a bit. Yeah. So hopefully that can be addressed. I did not like that at all. Another thing, listen, guys, I get it. It was a joke at the beginning. Buhr's caddy, Matt, he's a nice guy. He's funny. I get the joke. It was funny at the start. Stop staring at the screen already.
You know what? Don't you dare mix levity with Nick's disc golf.
I don't have a problem with levity.
Don't you dare repeat a joke.
Listen, things get overdone. Okay? A joke gets tired after a while.
Sure.
To me.
Okay.
To me,
beating
we're past that
the
point.
Dead horse.
Yes.
That's still acceptable? I don't know.
Yes. That's... Anyways, all right. Not a fan.
Got it. Got it.
Okay, so... Here's another thing. Why do we have spotters waving a green flag when the player can see perfectly fine from their lie or their tee shot where the disc lands? Why do they need to wave a green flag when you can see that it's inbounds? I don't need to see that. You don't need these extra people out there waving flags when it's obvious that the disc landed inbounds.
It's like deja vu.
Yes.
It's like I've heard this gripe before.
Why is this happening?
You know what they should do, Nick? I have the spotter do that and just hold the flag in his hand.
Just hold the hand.
In his other hand. That's
a whole other thing, right? Yeah. Listen, guys, I get it. You're trying to make things very apparent. It's already apparent. It's already apparent that the disc landed inbounds for the player. You don't need twice as many people out there on every hole that it's very obvious where the disc landed. Stop.
No.
Just stop. Listen, I have one last thing here. One last thing, okay? This is for commentary.
Okay.
Ian, I love you. Okay? Let's get that out of the way first. Ian Anderson, great guy.
It's about to be bad if you state his love first.
No, it's not going to be that bad. Stop over-dramatizing stuff and saying, oh, did that hit metal? When it did not come close. You have all the views in front of you. You're watching it. It's obvious to the viewers. It didn't. It buzzed the tower, right? Like, it didn't touch metal. Every time it comes close, you don't have to state and make it look like it's that much more dramatic. It was a close shot. You can say that. Oh, that came close. Ooh,
maybe
what a great shot.
Hyping up when it is something that's like that. That might be a better approach. Like,
yes.
Niehaus was one of my favorite announcers for the Seattle Mariners back in the day when I was a kid. And when something would happen that was exciting, right? It's grand salami time. It's time to break out that rye bread and mustard, Grandma. Like, he'd get pumped, though, right? I'm doing it way low-key, right? Because I don't want to blow out the mic. But he'd get animated because something really cool just happened. But all the other stuff, they get a little excited every now and then. Like, oh, that was close. But we don't have to do it every time. Because it is. No. It's a little much. It's a little forcing the drama a little bit. I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's not egregious. It's not that bad. No. But yeah, maybe pull it back a little bit and then pump it up a lot when it get, that does hit metal and you're like, oh, you can lose your mind then. But
yeah, because it's almost taking away from the ones that actually do.
Right, because if everything is elevated to a point, then when something special does happen, it's not as impactful. So it's not egregious though. That's really nitpicky.
No,
but I see what you're saying.
It's what I do.
Sure,
I critique. Okay,
that's what the old mannerisms are about.
Constructive criticisms. They shouldn't. You shouldn't take offense to them.
You should announce the game.
Personal.
Right. Let's see. You get out there, do it.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. The final event that took place was this last weekend, October 17th to 20th. It was the 2024 DGPT Championship presented by Barbasol. Barbasol held in Charlotte, North Carolina. This one was kind of a... I don't know. It was fun to watch. It was a good event to watch. It came down basically to 3. It was Missy, Tatar, and Owen. Again, Owen Scoggins. Not the farthest thrower.
Force to be reckoned with, though.
She's FP40. You know, she could be playing Masters. And she is challenging the top players because she is a top player. And she had that chance, you know. But Missy was able to hold them off. She kind of opened the door round 3 on the final hole. She had like a double bogey on the final hole, and basically let own as well round 3, but kind of left that window open for the possibility of either own or Tatar.
They didn't capitalize on it though.
But they didn't. You know, again, we said this in previous episodes. Tatar's putts, though she's an amazing putter, if she's off, just barely, you can totally tell because
absolutely
it's tough, man. It's tough. She can be so dead on where it's just ridiculous, but if she's just that barely, whether it's mental or not, whether it's just that release point is just slightly off, and it seemed like she was kind of back and forth through that final round where she had opportunities to take advantage, like you said, but she was just unable to get within striking range. She got close during the round, but Missy was too on. She was just
absolutely.
Her putting was good. So big shout out to Missy. Now I don't know if you saw hole 18 final round. Owns upshot to the green.
Yes.
That was a $4,000. I think it was a $4,000 Mando bank shot, and she ends up tying for second with Tatar, and I don't know. It was great to see. I don't hate on that because it's part of the game.
No. Yeah, that happens. Whatever. Right.
Yeah, but yeah, it was good. It was great. The other thing is, hey, listen. Here's another. Not a fan. Don't have a light pole. Don't have a light pole.
Oh, on 17. What was that?
And I'm not even. I could have cared who hit it. It's not because Tatar hit it. I could have cared who hit it. The fact that light pole comes into play, it's fluky for me. That's a fluky light pole. Yes, again, the argument, everybody's dealing with it. It's there for everybody. Sure. Yes, I get it. But it's in a park. I feel like designing. Tacky, yeah, I feel like designing these things to where those aren't obstacles. Man-made obstacles like that aren't part of a course. Like the basket is obviously man-made, right? Great.
I think it's the difference too between like this is a professional tour tournament versus your casual round, because disc golf's played in parks.
Oh yeah,
and I get the argument of bringing some of that element into the tour to represent what the sport is, not just at the professional level.
Yeah,
because it's a representation of. So I understand it, but yeah, it's still a little tacky though. And you're like, tour supposed to be televised, streamed thing, you know? Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one because it's a little tacky. Yeah, not a fan of it if you can avoid it.
Yeah. All right. Anyways. Big shout out to Missy. Congrats on a defending title. at that.
Yes.
So
important to point out.
I think it was, she was defending that title, yeah. So big shout out to Missy on that win, which actually got her the largest. She was the first. She had hit a goal of the largest season winnings, event winnings. And I think that pushed her up to around 190 or something like that for the season. So she's done very well this year. 180, somewhere around there. Great season for Missy.
Absolutely.
As for MPO, we had a battle. This one, like we said before, this one came down between basically round 2 kind of put the stamp on a fight between Buhr and Wysocki. So this was a battle of Ricky and Gannon from round 2 on, basically. They kind of...
Although Ezra wasn't really out of it.
He wasn't completely out of it, but he
would have
had to had the best final 2 rounds, and Wysocki and Buhr would have had to have the basic rounds that they could ever have, right?
Which ain't gonna happen, Ezra, especially not with those two.
And Ezra, like I was saying earlier, Ezra was banging putts from 80 feet.
Yep.
Like, he was draining these things. He was having great rounds for him. He had a 10 under round, one of those rounds, but it was just, it wasn't his event, but he did great, right? He ends up finishing in 3rd. So this battle between Wysocki and Buhr, the crazy thing is, after round 2, they're 1 stroke apart. After round 3, Wysocki has a 6-stroke lead over Buhr. Right? So at that point, you're thinking,
game over.
Ricky's got to have just a good round. Right? Just a good round. And he's capable of that. Usually the final couple rounds are when he makes that hard push and Ricky's in the discussion. Well, Ice Age,
not what happened.
right?
Yep, not what happened.
Burr's just continually trying to make a fool out of me in my comment of him not being a GOAT status discussion.
I told you he was going to take it personally.
He did. I don't think he heard me, but he heard it.
That's what we'll tell people.
Yeah, exactly. He makes an amazing comeback. I think it was a record comeback from a previous, like he tied the best comeback, right? And he ends up taking down Wysocki by 1 stroke. His putting was ridiculous this final round.
Yeah.
Wysocki did what he could. Wysocki missed some putts that he should not have missed. I think that's what it came down to was the fact at the very beginning, I think for the first 4 holes, he caught up 3 strokes or something like that. 5 holes, he caught up 3 strokes. And I was sitting there going, no way.
Which is not something like 5-6 years ago I would have thought would have been the downfall of Wysocki, right?
No.
I remember very specifically filming, actually, at St. Paddy's Day. Wysocki was there, and Nicola Castor was there. And I remember this moment because Wysocki drains this 100-footer, at least. Just a ridiculous putt. And he was on fire, right? That particular event. He drains it. And Nicola Castor gets pissed. He's like, what the hell am I supposed to do against something like that? Like, who? And he's doing it consistently, though, which is why he's like, what the hell? Right? Like, what do I do? So now for it to be like, well, Wysocki missed the putt, and that was are you kidding me? Could never have predicted that. Dude's a beast putter. So it's just, it's one of those things like, wow. Yeah. And not to take away from Buhr at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Didn't see that one coming.
He's, again, he went to a few times where Buhr went to a knee putt when he didn't really necessarily have to, but he's draining these 50-footers from a knee.
Right.
I mean, that's what we saw him do when he first came out strong back when he first was hot, when he was like, oh, whoa, who's this kid? He's 17 years old, and he's draining 50, 70-footers from a knee like nothing. But big shout out to Buhr. He ends up winning that, taking home, I think both FPO and MPO took 35 for first place, 35 grand. That pushed him to the first player to make over $200,000 a year in event winnings.
Crazy.
So that's
crazy.
Listen again. Remember, that's only event winnings, guys. That's not contract. That's not nothing. That's not sponsors.
Just pure winnings.
That's pure winnings. So big shout out to him. And what this takes us to is before USDGC, there was a discussion going around going, is this the best season of all, right? Is Buhr have the best season ever?
Okay.
And the argument comes down to this, okay? The stats look like this. McBeth's 2015 season versus Buhr's current season, 2024.
All right.
Major wins. McBeth wins all 5 majors. So Grand Slam, right? This year, Buhr, with USDGC, has 2. So right there, McBeth 5-2, right?
Sure.
Elite Series wins. At the time, McBeth had 3. Buhr, and I'm including this DGPT championship win because it's not an elite, but it's the Pro Tour championship.
Sure.
We're considering it elite.
It's an elite series, yeah.
7.
Or an elite, yeah.
So 3-7. Total wins 8-9, right?
Okay.
Average finish for McBeth 1.4. How can average finish for Buhr. I just did a quick little adjustment. It's like just over 4th.
Okay.
Worst finish for McBeth, 3rd place. Worst finish for Buhr, 12th. Total cash, this is not including inflation, although somebody did a quick inflation thing and said that they said it would bump it to like 70 or 80 for McBeth. McBeth won just over 50, or almost 54,000 for that year. 9 years ago.
Right.
Buhr over 200,000 this year.
So even without inflation, though, you also have to consider the wins weren't paying out as much.
No, not even close.
So there's a little discrepancy in that number too, just because of the amount that you win for these things is gone drastically up. Since what we're talking about in, was it 2015, right?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, 9 years.
There's a little bit of a imbalance there.
That money, I would guess, all 5 majors. Let's say that all 5 majors were the 30 grand, right? Because this year it seemed like they were close at 25 to 35. That's at low end 125 just with the majors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's be less than $20,000 for majors. Let's say it's 20.
Okay.
So 100,000 in majors, and elite series, those let's say they're 10. So that's still 130, right?
Yeah.
Does the money constitute a better year? I don't think so. No. I think if you ask that was the argument before last year with Isaac and Buhr as player of the year, was which round, what is considered player of the year? Majors or total wins? All the pros, almost every pro you ask goes, I don't care about Elite Series wins. You're remembered for the majors. The majors, I would rather take that over top 5 wins throughout the season.
Sure.
For all the other events, I would rather take major wins.
I can definitely see that argument.
So as much as this is an incredible, amazing, we don't know when we're going to see a season like this for Buhr season, right? I'm sorry. You have a Grand Slam, all 5 majors won, and you didn't, your average was 1.4, and you didn't finish worse than podium.
Right.
How can you say that Buhr's season was better?
You can't.
I don't think it's
comparable.
No, the one thing that gets brought up,
really,
and to me, you can't even use that, really, in this instance, is level of play and quantity of players now versus then, right?
Right.
You do have a larger amount of people that can possibly win things, right?
Right.
But even if you talk about that, now with Buhr, you have Buhr, Wysocki, AB, were the big names this year, and Isaac, right? 4.
And Isaac, yeah.
McBeth, Wysocki. You had who else was big back then? It was usually between them two. But you had other names. There were definitely a couple other names that popped up that were in the discussion, right, throughout that season.
Simon Lizotte,
yeah. Yeah.
Right? One of my favorite players.
You can't say that, the level. Well, also, if you think about it, the rating system has changed.
Absolutely.
So you can't... And back then, McBeth hit 1,100.
Yep.
Way back then. So I'm still McBeth. McBeth has all-time best season, in my opinion.
I think so.
But you're going to have those people who didn't see those events, who never watched those events, who came into it in COVID, and they came into it in the past couple of years, and they're seeing Buhr just dominate.
Right.
And he's 19. How he even said previously, he said, I've got to do this probably another 5 years at least of dominating to be considered in the GOAT status and all that stuff. That's a whole other argument, GOAT.
For sure.
But current GOAT, yes. Overall GOAT, not yet.
A couple more years and then
not yet. Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of what we're at for these past events. The season, again, pro season is over. The guys are going to be in their off season training, doing whatever they do in their off season. With all those that have had recently either married or had kids, obviously they're going to probably soak that up as much as they can. And the only event really that's coming up, it's a local event. I might be playing in this event.
Oh, are you?
Well, it's 2 weekends. So there's an AM weekend and pro weekend.
Right. All right.
It's for the AM weekend, it's November 1st through 3rd. The pro weekend is the following weekend, so the 8th through the 10th. The 2024 cool down, that's to be held in Rockland, California. So shout out to Roger and that event. I might be playing in it. My birthday's the 4th, so it'd be like a fun little
Mine's
thing
the
for me
7th, and I'll be out of town.
You're going to be out of town.
I couldn't plan it even if I wanted to.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that event. And then, well, I'm sure there'll be events that we may comment on or shout out through the off season for those that are trying to build and stuff like that.
And for the record, Nick is significantly older than I am. So just because our birthdays are, he's way older.
Yes, I am. I'm
way
older. I'm
way older.
I'm older.
All those old mannerisms.
I'm a little older. Okay.
Way older.
All right. Hey, off season, right? Questions for you, Justin.
All right.
We didn't get to this the last episode. You had, you had stuff you had to do. So
we all had stuff to do, Nick.
This is still applicable.
We all did.
And does it stay? Does the opinion stay the same? Because this applies to you have the same situation at USDGC on hole 17.
Yes.
And that is a highly regarded hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
MVP has that hole, which is kind of what this was brought up for. Right. Does OB belong anywhere near bullseye or circle one? And are there situations in which it would be considered okay? But overall, what do you think?
Sure. Overall, nowhere near bullseye. That doesn't make sense. Because that's what you're aiming for. That's the goal, is to land within bullseye. I mean, obviously, put the darn thing in is the goal, but realistically, you're aiming for the bullseye. And if you go out of bounds on a bullseye, something's wrong. How are you going to do better than a bullseye? You can't, right? You hole in one, or you put it in the basket, right? Like that's the only way you do better. So I think it's a little unrealistic to have an OB near a bullseye. Circle one, maybe on the outside edge. I could see that, depending on course layout, because I know there has to be a little bit of flexibility sometimes, depending on the course and what the layout is. You're going to have a little bit of give and take. So maybe you adjust it by a couple of feet and you put it right at the end of circle one. I think that would be a way better compromise than having it within bullseye. That's a little bit ridiculous. So circle one, sure. Maybe on the outer edge of circle one. Bullseye, absolutely not. Move the pin.
How about this? You can have out of bounds inside circle one if it's under 250 feet.
Sure, yeah.
Because at that
because
point,
then it's a skill.
They should be hitting.
Right.
But if it's over, well, and maybe even under 300, because the pros really 300 is is a putter.
That's a small little,
Maybe a mid range depending on the angle. I would say that would be, and that for me again that kind of goes to the hole 17 at USDGC.
Sure.
So it's a short hole.
There's always going to be an exception to the rule, right? And if it makes sense, obviously. Yeah. But generally speaking, is what we're talking about, right?
Should not be.
On average.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Question 2. This is only because it's starting to... Not a fan. Do the cameras need to be directly in the face of them? I get you wanting to have this intimate... You're in there. When you're watching it, you feel like you're right there. Mm-hmm. But when these players finish their throw and the cameraman walks literally, it feels like, 5 feet in front of them, staring directly at them, when they're trying to keep in their game mindset, obviously it's part of the game, right? Currently it's part of the game and they've got to deal with it. However, I just don't like the fact that they could be walking right across their view, like 6 feet in front of them. To me, it's distracting.
There's zoom lenses, Nick. There's zoom lenses.
Yeah, but when you see how it's
have to be that close
when they're walking, yeah, exactly. They don't have to be that close.
Right.
That's the argument. Is that
just and if you are that close,
if you are that close, stay to the side.
Sure.
Don't walk in front of their view of the hole.
Right. Don't interfere with play.
Yeah.
And get in the line of play, right? Like, yeah, I agree with you in that respect. The simple fact of them zooming in, no, I don't care. You can give me pour count. I want to see pour count on Mr. Wysocki, right? Are we using the face wash, right? I don't care about that aspect. But the line of play, don't interfere with that. Like, stay out of people's way. You're there to make it kind of almost yourself invisible.
Yes.
Right? You're the viewing lens for us, but you don't need to be in front of them.
No.
And getting in interfering in that way. Yeah, you have zoom on your camera. Just zoom in if you want that shot.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's just a couple times
as long as it's
recently,
not egregious, right? Things are going to happen. It's a live moving thing. So sometimes you're going to, oh, crap, I got in the way. Okay, but just not as a standard, right?
Yes.
Let's
sometimes it seems like they're trying to get that immediate reaction from the player. And you can do that in other ways rather than just being right in front of them. Yeah.
Right.
So I just saw it a few times where it looked like they were right up on them. Like they could just whisper to them. And it's like, you're trying too hard. You're trying too hard.
Sure.
Okay. I appreciate the effort, but it's being done the wrong way, in my opinion.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, there's probably other questions that I could come up with, but
I think that's good. We're nearing the hour mark for the show. I think we've given them lots of good stuff today. Remember, and you're going to see it on the social medias as we get closer to next year, but I'll put it out there ever so often. I think we're going to continue to use skipace.com for our fantasy league. Congratulations again to Ken and Ben and Roger. We're sending you the consolation prize, right? Yeah. You're a winner in our books, too, right? Especially because you were the part of the first one. But we're going to be continuing that next year with prizes, maybe even more prizes. We'll see. We'll see when it happens. So just put it out there. Maybe you want to jump in this next year. We're going to open up more slots for sure so that we can, now that we kind of have it down. And maybe some extras on the show. I got to talk to Nick about those. He doesn't even know yet, but we're going to talk about it.
All right.
I think that is it for the show. And just a reminder real quick, if you'd like to save some money, you can do so in at least one way, and that's by going to what, Nick? What do we always plug at the end of the show?
Upper Park. Oh, discounts.
The discounts, right? The Upper Park, though, is what I was getting at. You guessed right. You guessed right. Even though you look panicked for a second, you're like, I don't know. What are we talking about?
Which one are
what are we doing? No, Upper Park Disc Golf. If you want to save some money, use the code Disc Golf Show to save yourself 15% off of your total purchase. Again, that code is Disc Golf Show. Get the new bag. Because they might actually be, I don't know, check. Go in there, use the code. They might be up in the prices on some of those bags, so get in now if you can. Use that code Disc Golf Show to save yourself some money. This episode was, again, brought to you in part by Final Nine Sports with their 2 locations. Where are they at?
Orangevale and Rockland.
Good job. I'm bringing you in here. You see, I'm like shotgunning you in. You're like, I'm just going to tune out. No, you're not. I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep you here with me, Nick, and hopefully them too. Make sure that you're hitting the subscribe. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like it, but it helps us out. And the closer that we get to those goals, the more prizes and giveaways we're going to be doing here soon. So pay attention to that. Also, there's one last thing that we need to remind them, Nick. And I'm not going to ask you what it is because this is my line. You're safe here. I'm not going to pull you in. Just remember, in disc golf, as in life, to aim high and let it fly.